y'all, I'm Elisa, the Scrappy Wife behind ScrappyWife.com, and today I have an art journal process video for you. I believe the plan for me today is going to be doing kind of half of an art journal process that I plan to finish the next time I do an art journal video. So it's going to involve multiple pages. I have some gouache paint pulled out right here from Arteza. I have my Dilutions art journal kind of ready to go, and I'm kind of excited about this idea. So we'll see how it turns out in the end. Pretty simple to get started, and let's just have some fun with some paint. So I will link everything that I end up using down below. Otherwise, I'm going to put you guys on fast forward. Let's go. I have sped this up a lot. A lot of this process is me just working on blending some colors. I'm using gouache paint. Gouache paint is like a mix between acrylic paint and watercolor paint in that you can make it pretty translucent. It blends pretty well, but it does have some of the same properties as acrylic. And what I'm using is just using a really big brush and really broad strokes. I should have put that under before. And I'm just wanting to create kind of like an ombre effect going down the page, just blending the colors little by little. And I'm going to do that on several different pages. And I've done this in previous art journals where I have kind of a multi-step art journal process that takes up several different pages where the pages relate to each other but don't necessarily have to go together. It's just an interesting kind of fun way to change it up, and you'll kind of see how this comes together. I'm trying to make sure that I'm being really thorough on the drying process because I'm about to flip this page over, and you can see it's messy right at the gutter of the page, but I'm not really worried about that. Next, we're going to do some different blues. Of course, I'm having this be like a super colorful kind of combination of spreads. And as it comes together, I definitely want to hear your thoughts in the comments. Where do you think I can go from here? So wait a little while longer, see what these pages end up as, and then give me some suggestions for how I can take this. Like, what direction do I go in from this point to add more detail and more interest to these art journal pages? This page of blues came out really beautifully. I was really enjoying it. Gouache paint is a lot of fun to work with. It does take some getting used to. I actually cover it in my self-care for the creative soul course. In the month of February, we're going over gouache paint, and so I definitely had it out and was using it, and it just has some really cool properties, and so I highly suggest getting some to play with. This Arteza batch is one of their huge batches. It has 60 different colors in it, and you probably don't need 60 different colors, but I think it's a good start for gouache paint, like a good starting set. You probably don't, you just need some of the basic colors because it does mix and blend, so you can pretty much create any color that you want just from a real basic kind of palette. All right, next we're going to go with kind of a purpley page, and we're going to start with a sky blue up here and then fade that into purple. For each page, I did choose 3 different colors. I find that to be an easy number to really work with blending wise. On this size of page, you of course can do a lot of different colors. And I'm just going back and forth. The tricky thing about gouache is getting the right amount of water where it is the correct opaqueness for what you're kind of going for. And so that's something that I was going back and forth, and then I end with this like wine color down here, which was really nice. I had a little bit of trouble with the blend from the wine into this lighter purple just because they didn't have as many similar tones, and so you can see I'm trying to go over it and blend it out, and I do like how it ends up. I think this is a very interesting color concept for this particular page as it comes across. So just filling in a few of the little spots, and then I will do one last page, and that one will be in some greens. The other thing I loved about this particular process was that it was so messy. I had paint all over my hands. There was paint on all the things, and sometimes that might bug you, and this particular day it felt good. It was a Monday morning and trying to get into a creative flow for the week, and so doing something that was full of color, not super worried about details quite yet. Really, it's just playing with color and shape and line, as you'll see coming up. It really was a great way for me to kind of just jump off and get going for the week. All right, next will be the green page. And something else that's interesting about these colors from Arteza, some of them are pearlized, so they have a little bit of a sheen to them, and it was kind of cool to mix those with some of the other ones. So as most of the gouache paints dry with a very, very matte finish, a matte feel, it was interesting to see how the pearlized ones kind of mixed in and how that contrasting sheen turned out. The green one was really fun too, and I love this emerald green at the bottom. It was super pretty. All right, so blending those and adding just a little bit more of the softer green at the top because it felt like it had gotten lost just a little bit. And this is when I decide that I'm going to take these kind of blended colors and take them a step further. Once these are all dry, I'm going to get a smaller brush this time. And now I'm going to go over the top with just some quick brush strokes to create a fun texture over a couple of the pages. And you can see I'm mixing the colors, I'm coming down here, and we're gonna, it still gives you the ombre look. This one I think kind of feels watery to me, even though it's green, it still has this like ocean kind of feel just because of the coolness of the greens that I'm using. And I like the texture of the page, and it was a lot of fun to do. At first I thought maybe I'll do this on all the pages, but I kind of wanted there to be some contrast and that they not necessarily all follow the same pattern. So I'm going to skip the purple page and come and do the same kind of technique with the blue. And again, a smaller brush, just kind of you know, freehand, just going back and forth, adding some different colors. The ones on this page ended up being a little bit thinner lines, and that is totally okay. So mixing it all through and through, and then making sure it is nice and dry before I move on to my next step. Next up, I wanted to play with line and shape, and this is where I'm going to start cutting the pages. So I'm just taking this kind of wavy ruler that I happen to have in my stash. I have no idea where this thing is from. I feel like I've had it forever. And then I'm just going to cut on this line. Now this was a little bit trickier than I thought, because if you are an expert fussy cutter like I normally am, you know that you're not actually supposed to move your hand when you're cutting. You're supposed to move the paper, but it was very difficult to move the paper when it was in this big art journal book. So that was a little bit tricky. I thought, do I want to do scallops the whole time? Nope, I don't want to do scallops the whole time. We're playing with lines and shapes. So this one is super jagged, but it was tricky because, yeah, moving my hand, not easy, was not an easy thing to do. Making a new pattern, and then let's come to this last page. And again, we're just going to freehand a more gentle wave over here. And now you can see that you have all of these colors that will play together when the page is open to that first one. And I want to give it a little bit more definition. So I have a black paint pen here, and I'm going along the edge of each of these different line patterns. And I'm using, this is just a clear cutting board. So I picked these up at the Dollar Tree. I actually buy them all of the time because I use them for lots of different things in my craft room, and you get two for $1, but it works as a really nice mat. All right, moving that to the side, these are the pieces that I cut off. I'm going to add definition to the edge of those because I'm not done with these pieces quite yet. So adding just a little bit of black to the edge just so that they're clearly defined. It also helped for the little spots that I kind of got a little rough on. So this helped clean that up just a bit. Okay, now let's turn back to what those art journal pages look like. So my thought was that I could reattach the pages I cut off to the other side of the page like this, and see how you have a different kind of look. Now that got a little tricky on this one because I didn't measure, and because I don't do that, you guys know that. I'm just freehanding it and having fun. So this one got a little over, and it was getting a little bulky. Like I was having trouble keeping it flat, and that was gonna start to pose a little bit of problem, which is one of the reasons I decided to go ahead and stop this art journal process so that I could close the book, let it dry completely flat, and then have a little bit more ease as I continue the next part. So you can see, there we go, got that blue right there. Now there's gonna be some gaps. You see how there's that gap where the gutter of the page is? I don't want that gap there. So I'm coming back with some paint. It's not quite as smooth as when I did it the first time, just because you're working on the edges of some paper and in the gutter. So it's not the same smooth finish, but it does end up covering up the white in the gap that was really showing up. And I'll do my best to kind of smooth it out here in a minute by bringing some of the brush strokes out farther. But it's gonna work because here's the deal. I want to add something over the top of these, and I want it to be something that relates but is different with each color scheme, if that makes sense. So some ideas, I was thinking of some of the fashion stamps that I have. I was thinking of some bold words that you could maybe write on each page. You know, you can even do bold words in white and then have something else that was bringing in some interest. You could do some crazy, beautiful florals. I think that would be gorgeous as well. I think there's lots of things that you could do that could be thematic on these pages that wouldn't be identical but would kind of flow together. So let me know what you think below. I like how these are coming out. Now, here's what I decided. So the backs of the pages open, and I'm just going to come in with black gouache paint, and we are going to paint this sucker black. So that's going to cover up the kind of flow that the overflow that I had right there. And we're gonna give myself a black background to work on, at least as far as the parts that are not colored. And I'll show you what I mean in just a second. It did get especially messy when I was working with the black. It got a little bit everywhere because I was getting excited about how it was turning out. So trying to make sure it's really dry. I got a little messy, so some of the black got on the back of this page, but that's okay. See, oh, that's where I was like, no, but that's okay. I can cover that up. Now I'm going to come over with this next part, and you can see I'm filling in the background black, the part right here, and then I'll come in with a smaller brush as I get close to the scallop, but we still have the color. So there's going to be a lot of black as the basis for where something else can be. I'm just really excited about the possibilities. I feel like I could play with all kinds of lines and shapes and patterns and see what develops from these pages, but I like sometimes in my art journaling to come and just do big, bold backgrounds like this, and then come in later and worry about the focal points or the details or things like that. Because our brain works different at different times, and so sometimes on a Monday morning, I'm not quite ready for detail work, but I am ready to get messy, to paint, to craft, to, you know, kind of jump in. And so I like getting a lot of backgrounds done, and then I can come back and really refine the detail when it kind of speaks to me, and I can let it sit with me for a little while and kind of figure out where I want to go next. Now these pages took a lot of paint, so they'll definitely need to stay closed for a while to flatten out, but I know that they will flatten out, so I will be able to work on these in a different way, and that'll be super cool. So again, don't forget to leave a comment below. Give me some ideas for where I can go next. I definitely read all the comments, you guys. If you've followed me for long, you know that I read all the comments and I always reply to all of the comments as soon as I can. Try to do it in a timely basis. And I will read those and kind of see if if there's some inspiration that I can draw from you guys, because I know that you are immensely creative as well. I will link everything down in the description box below, including these gouache paints and the art journal that I'm using and things like that. If I ever forget to link a supply, just be sure to ask me and I will search it out for you. If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up and consider hitting that subscribe button as well as the bell notification button. I want to give a huge shout out to my Scrappy patrons. I jumped over to Patreon in January of 2022 and it has been amazing, and we're just having the best time over there. So if you haven't checked it out, check out that link in the description box and go see what Patreon is all about. All right, I hope that you have a fabulous day. I'm going to do a little bit of cleaning up on this art journal page, and otherwise, as always, keep it creative.